Okay, a whip pan. This is a pretty easy one to execute. I've got Sophie here who's going to help me. For the first part of the shot for the whip pan, I'm just going to frame her, and then I'm going to whip pan away from her. So we should know that panning is to pivot from left to right, and you want your direction to be consistent. So I'm always going to be moving to my right. So I'm going to get a shot of her, and then she's going to give me a pose of some kind. She doesn't have to. It'll maybe look a little bit cooler. You can also do it with, instead of with this person, you can do it with an object, and I'll show you that later. Might be a little bit better with a person. So as soon as she gives me that pose, I'm going to whip pan away from her. And then remember, backgrounds should be different. So we'll go outside, and then I'm going to whip pan to her, and we'll see that too. Okay, remember, always get 2 good takes. So I'm going to start, I'm going to frame her as a waist shot. Okay, go ahead and give me the pose again. And then I'm going to whip the pan away from her. And then I'm going to do it one more time because I want to get a safety. So wait, hold on. I'm going to start recording. Okay, now give me the pose. Whip pan, like that. Okay, so a whip away from her. Now we're going to go outside, and instead of going to my right or away from her, I'm going to go to her. Okay, and we'll do that now. Okay, now we're outside, and so I'm going to whip pan to Sophie. We whip pan away from her to the right. So I'm going to whip pan to her this time, and we're going to edit that together. So away from her the first time, so we went that way the first time, away to the right, and now we're going to whip pan to her and edit that together once we're done. So as soon as I get to her, she's going to strike another pose, and then we're going to edit it together afterwards. And we're always going to get 2 takes. Ready? Okay, so that was a good take. And remember, you want to roll for a good like 5 seconds afterwards, because you don't want to just have a really short clip. You want to whip pan and then hold it, roll for at least like 5 seconds afterwards. You ready? Awesome, now we just edit it together.
Here we are in Final Cut Pro. We can do the same thing in WeVideo. The idea is exactly the same. I've got my clips up here. I'm going to put them down in my timeline, and I'm going to play it. I'm going to edit out most of the second part of the shot. So I'm just going to play it to see what it looks like.
I'm recording. Okay, now give me the pose. Whip.
Okay, so I'm going to want to cut it right at the motion blur. So we've talked about motion blur. So right here, right around there. I'm not going to want to go all the way to there. I don't want to go all the way. I'm just going to want to go a few frames into it. These are frames. You can go 1 frame at a time on Final Cut by clicking the arrows. So this is where it starts to pan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to say 9 frames. So you shouldn't really go a whole lot more than probably 9 to 12 frames around there. Now snapping is on, so I'm just going to be able to snap to my playhead there. Now I'm going to get the second shot of Sophie while she's outside. Here's the one that I'm going to use. I'm going to drag it down here, and again I'm going to want to edit off the very beginning. The motion blur on this shot is not nearly as good because I'm not moving the camera fast enough. You really want to whip that camera. That's why it's called a whip pan. But right here, let's say it's a little bit blurry. Again, snapping is on. I'm going to trim to the playhead, and I'm going to take a look at what that looks like now.
I'm recording. Okay, now give me the pose.
That looks pretty good, but I'm still going to finesse it. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of the audio there on both of them. I'm going to get rid of a bit of this at the beginning. I'm going to turn snapping off, so it's sometimes we want it on, sometimes we don't. Here is where you can see how long the clips are, around 2 seconds. So I'm going to maybe make that even a little bit shorter and play it from here. That looks pretty good. I don't know if I'm going to need to finesse it that much, but I'm going to go to the edit point, and I'm going to arrow key through. I might add 1 frame on here. I just zoomed in. Right here it shows me how many frames I'm taking off. So I'm going to take off 2 frames. I added some on, and now I'm going to take a couple of them off because I think I added a little bit too much. So I think that looks pretty good. So you want to get the motion blur, and then when you cut to the next one, you know, the reason why this doesn't look quite as good is because that motion blur isn't great. If you don't have a person to help you, you can do the same thing with an object, like so.
I'm also going to show you how you could do it in a production. So we're going to have a scene here where Sophie's forgot her library book and she's going to face a consequence. So this is like if it were in an actual production. Again, I'm going to get a shot of her. I'm going to whip pan away from her to the right. And then we're going to go and whip pan to another scene with her. So I'm going to frame her, and I've already told her what to do. So, action.
Attention all students, today is the last day to return your overdue library books without facing a consequence.
So whip pan away. Now we're going to do another one because we always want to get a safety.
Attention all students, today is the last day to return your library books without facing a consequence.
So whip pan. Okay, now we're going to go see the other side of that. Okay, so this is the other side of the whip pan where Sophie's realized she doesn't have her book and now she's going to face a consequence. So we're transitioning to this scene and she's going to have her consequence. And again, I'm going to get on the other side of them because we need to think about the 180-degree rule, and I'm going to whip pan to them, always going in the same direction. So I'm going to be going to right. So this way, and then after I do that, I'm going to, once I get that framed, we're going to have the line delivered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to whip pan like this, and as soon as you see me do that, and I have this, then you say that line. And try to say it fairly loudly.
I'm sorry, Sophie. Since you don't have your book, you're not going to be able to go to Six Flags.
All right, excellent. We're going to do one more. One more is a safety, always. Excellent. And now we just edited it.
Attention all students, today is the last day to return your overdue library books without facing a consequence.
I'm sorry, Sophie. Since you don't have your book, you're not going to be able to go to Six Flags.
Now I'm going to take this shot of Sophie and this shot of her in the library. I'm going to add my voiceover by going to Windows, Record Voiceover, click Start Recording. It'll give me a countdown.
Attention all students, today is the last day to return your overdue library books without facing a consequence.
Get one off the beginning.
Attention all students, today is the last day to return your overdue library books without facing a consequence.
Okay, so again, remember I said around 9 or 10 frames once it starts to move. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think right around there would probably look good. Edit it down. And then we're going to the next frame. Obviously we don't want to start from here. We want that motion blur. Okay, so if I go from here, I'm going to trim to that edit point. Turn on my snapping by hitting N. Snap. Okay, so now here I'm going to count my frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's about 9. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to turn up the volume here so that we can hear that line a little bit better. Let's see what this looks like as a transition from one scene to the next.
Attention all students, today is the last day to return your overdue library books without facing a consequence.
I'm sorry, Sophie. Since you don't have your book, you're not going to be able to go to Six Flags.
So that looks pretty good. So there's the way to edit. This is an example of how to use that creative transition within a production. You can go from one scene to the next by using a whip pan. That is how you shoot and edit a whip pan. Good luck.